Greetings, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Tyranny. I'm Conrad Rogas, welcoming you to This Week in Tyranny. It's a outside the box kind of a show that I'm welcoming you to. And what that means is I'm not going to do what everybody else is doing. So I'm recording this on Super Bowl Sunday. I waited right about the scheduled kickoff. It's Sunday, the 9th of February, 2025, and it's episode 114. Recording during the Super Bowl instead of watching it. Not because I don't like football, because I do, and I've been watching I've watched every playoff game, but then once it rolls around towards the end, I'm just not gonna watch it. And no, it's not because my Super Bowl pick, the Buffalo Bills, got knocked out by Mahomes and the Chiefs. That's not exactly what it is. But I'll start off by talking a little bit about that because it all connects. When you do what everybody else is doing, you seem to get a minimum return on your investment, and you have actually minimum impact. Uh, the best things happen in life when you kind of do your own thing, and you do that thing before everybody else is doing it, or when it's just not as interesting. And then, obviously there are ebbs and flows in what is fashionable, okay, what is important, what people like, what people don't like. And then when it rolls around and turns out that's the new thing, and you've been doing it for like a year now, that is when you get a maximum return. That is when you get the attention. That is when you actually can profit from that. Not just in a material sense, but it's when you get good things happen to you. And I'm going to talk about those things that, if you practice them, good things will happen to you. They're called principles, right? This is a show about principles and talking about principles and ideas, and not actually the daily news type of a thing. So I got to just do the opposite of what everybody else is doing. The Super Bowl, I feel like if I were to watch it this year specifically, it would just be like I'm voting. And I will never vote. I never have voted. And that's what it feels like. It's like you got two teams that aren't really inspiring to me. I kind of liked Philadelphia a few years ago. But, clearly these are the best teams. There's really no inspiring story there. But really what I just don't want to see is the commercials. I don't want to see the Kendrick Lamar halftime show, even though I've always liked Kendrick Lamar. But I've just seen everybody's jumped on his bandwagon, and when everybody else was, treating Drake like he's God's gift to earth, now they went up against each other, and it's just like everybody just switched over to the other side. And very unfortunately, Kendrick Lamar is like this black liberation figure, this savior figure that's supposed to represent what the culture is feeling. And I think, what culture are they talking about? Because they're handing him all these Grammys, and for like diss songs, and everybody's going to perform the diss song, which really is intriguing. I would almost watch it just for that, but I won't, because I don't want the messaging that is directed at everybody else. I don't want to see Trump. I don't want to see Taylor Swift. I don't want to see Kelsey or none of that. So anyway, that's enough about that, because the real Super Bowl is up in 2 weeks. It's called the Funnel Conference. Okay, Freedom Under Natural Law for Humanity Rising, Inspiring Care to Action. Okay, that's the Funnel 4 conference where I'm going to present. I'm going to deliver a presentation called The Sonic Divorce. Or I'm going to talk about music, actually. Okay, I was just talking about it. The way we're disconnected from music, and the way we need a soundtrack. Freedom has to have a soundtrack, and everything is so, there's all this noise out here, but no really inspiring song that you could point towards. But anyway, that's just me. I'm one of many presenters. It was 12 last I checked, but I think there may be more additions. There is, of course, music there. There will be as well. We've got a lot of musicians presenting, so thank you to the organizers, and I hope you join me there in 2 weeks, February 22nd and 23rd. The last thing before I really get into the principles and the topic of the show is I want to thank everybody who's been tuning in and week out, as I have my own little ups and downs with the topics and what I choose to talk about and how. It's not perfect. Now, to all you guys, I have not really been getting back to comments, emails. I didn't even really reply to people on my Facebook wall that said happy birthday. I'm not really sure why it is like that. I say that I'm busy, but really it's like it's not that I'm. Everybody's busy, it seems like, and I have a friend who, I always talk to her, and oh man, I was so busy, I had to do this and that and couldn't do this, and like I just got to get this done and then I'll be able to do this. And that's how it is with me, and it never changes. There's always going to be another thing that's taking up your time. So really it's just an excuse. Like, we're always going to be busy. This is the way life is right now. I'm not saying this is the way it has to be, but this is it. So we might as well stop making the excuses. But I just wanted to acknowledge that everybody who watches this, who reaches out or doesn't, I know you guys are busy too, right? So not everybody probably, probably we want to talk to each other, but we have enough things going on and we don't talk to each other, and that's okay. I just want to acknowledge, like, publicly on the show, that I value these relationships and connections a lot, and that is what I'm rolling with. That is what is valuable to me. Okay, this is like my team right here. I have a team too. We're not in the Super Bowl, but that's all right, So this show, I'm gonna talk about principles. It's really in no specific order. Instead of talking about what everybody else is gonna talk about, I don't know what new executive orders got signed, really, because it's not the point. I found even the recent news to be very uninspiring. I don't want to sniff Elon's crotch and figure out what these guys are doing. I don't want to hear about, what the greatest, what the newest, most despicable twists and turns are in Israel, because that's going on. That would really be the main news if I did it. But that's what everybody, I see people doing that, and if I were to do it too, I just wouldn't like it. So I won't do things that I don't like. I'm going to do things I like. So I'm going to start off by saying, kind of with this choppy start to the video, that human beings don't have to have a perfect plan. Like, we don't have to do things beautifully. And This Week in Tyranny, it's a human-centric show. It's about people, like real world people, okay? This is not like $1 million studio, and that's kind of the point, okay? It should be much more like the hockey guy, okay? He's standing there talking about hockey with his whiteboard, and there's a consistency there, okay? There's an objectivity there, and there's a spirit of somebody that loves what they're talking about. This is what I'm trying to bring to the table. And also, to deal with tyranny, to actually solve it, you don't have to play a perfect game. You don't have to be a brilliant strategist. You don't need to have a flawless performance. And I think that a lot of people think they got to get up in front of the mic and they got to be James Corbett. You don't have to be. Like, you're not going to be. And that's kind of the issue, is that we don't have. It seems like only the top of the top that have like no flaws, right? They got all their ducks in a row. It's the only people we listen to. And I think there's a big problem there. Because there are so many voices that need to be heard that just never get around to it, because there's an entry barrier to doing this. Like, you got to get your technical knowledge in order. You kind of got to get over the whole woo-woo voodoo idea of talking in front of a camera. You have to manage that with your job that you're working, because obviously you won't be able to do this full time, right? You got to manage it with your family, and then you got to kind of get over that mental block of seeing yourself do this week after week and actually not giving up. So there's like it's like a high startup cost, okay? It's like you need a small loan of $1 million to get started in the truth movement, but you don't. You just kind of got to push hard in the beginning, and then the ball rolls itself. But this is why so many people still to this day are not producers and they're not content creators, because they don't just do it. But that's why I'm not doing the news this week, because we already have people doing the news. We've got like a really good 10 to 15 creators that really do it at a high level. So then the people who listen to them, it's a select few who does. They listen to those people. They listen to James Corbett. They listen to me. So they're well informed, and that's good. But how many motivators do we have? Okay, who is out there that transcends that kind of internet zone of neutrality between receiving information, processing it in your head, and then actually putting it into action, actually doing something? Okay, how many motivators to translate this information that produces something more than this soulless carbon copy that after the video plays you go watch another video and then it's done with? Okay, it needs to be more than that. And that's why the most important content creator to me, it's not the best journalist, it's not the one who's the best speaker, it's not the most intelligent one, it's not even the one with the best information. It's the person that makes you feel something. And not just feel something for a few seconds and then it dissipates and then the world continues. I'm talking about a persistent feeling. Somebody's got to set a persistent feeling into the ether, into the world, and it's like a feeling that demands action from you listening to it. It's like an itch that demands to be scratched, or something along those lines, right? And I'm not saying that's me, I'm not saying I'm the best. The point is, well, goddamn it, that's who I'm trying to be. This is who I endeavor to be, okay? I want to throw that mold out there, that example. I think, yeah, we need more inspirational figures, okay? So here's me taking the conversation where it is really important, where it's really important to me. Absolute principles. It's character, it's things that are never going to change no matter what happens. And today, there are fewer and fewer principles and just more and more sentiments. We've got like sentiments on sentiments. And you're trying to deliver the news, you're trying to talk about something that happened, but you already have like 5 sentiments there that you got to talk about. And at some point, it's like, what are we even talking about? Because it's so hard to pinpoint feelings and things that the culture is feeling, because they can change. So words don't even mean what we think they mean. Words don't even mean what you're trying to get across as somebody who's making a video, because you're up against sentiments and not discussing principles. The game's gotten real muddy and fucked up. It's hard to talk about things. But anyway, first principle, like no order, right? Just it's things that I thought of as I was taking in kind of what happened this week. This lesser of two evils thing. I've heard this, it's been building over a while, and every time I hear lesser of two evils, it's like I simmer, like builds up under the surface. I'm ready to blow up on somebody, because I hate the lesser of two evils thing, that sentiment, that is something to be accepted, to the lesser of two evils. And I'm reminded of Thomas Paine's quote. Thomas Paine, one of the founding fathers of this country, American revolutionary, he said, "If there must be trouble, let it be in my day, so that my child may have peace." Okay? That's where I'm at with it. That is a principle to me. That is just a endless, timeless, natural principle. That's how a real adult thinks. If we've got to do something painful and we've got to have something bad happen, let it happen now, so that it doesn't hurt my family later, so that we can kind of stop the bleeding here and not pass the buck to hurt people that cannot handle it, right? Protecting the innocent. This is the whole thing. Like, all parents understand this. I'm not even a parent. Like, this is what you would do for your children. This is the whole idea. You don't hide in a corner and let your child deal with like the flood that is about to wash the house away. Like, you're gonna get prepared, you're gonna jump into action, right? But where is that sentiment? Where's that principle on a societal level? It's not there. And Thomas Paine also says, "The single reflection well applied is sufficient to awaken every man in duty." Basically just saying that that's all you really need to motivate you to heroic action. It's really not that heroic. It's really just like an extension of the survival instinct. If you're really taking the survival instinct and just, even if you see human beings at their lowest and most animalistic, If you really think it through and you take that to its end, if you're really for your survival, then you will do the difficult thing first, and you won't take the lesser of two evils. You will take out the greater of the evils first, because that is your best chance at survival. And it's common sense, and Thomas Paine wrote his magnum opus, his main work is called Common Sense. And how ironic is that? Because so many people talk about common sense today. And what people say is common sense, anytime they say it, it's not common sense, it's just consensus, is what they're talking about. People will say completely opposite things, polar opposites, and say that's just common sense, because you're not talking about common sense, you're talking about consensus. You're talking about things that your group agrees with, that the people you know, that your little worldview, that's common to your worldview, and that's your common sense. But that's not common sense, it's only consensus. If you mumble the words common sense, maybe you can make it sound like consensus, common sense, common sense, common sense, and you say consensus, and you think that's what common sense is. And I've heard it from a whole lot of people, and they're watching the Super Bowl right now. This is what really is going on. But that's what people have done. It's passing the buck. People have been just passing the buck and taking the lesser of two evils. And it's just a wrong way to look at it. You wouldn't take the lesser of two evils. Why should we even see that as a preferable option? It's a coward's way out. If you've got two, it's crazy because this actually happened. This actually happened. This is the way that I've heard it passed down to me. Is really the way that it happened historically, is that when Poland has gotten invaded in World War II, and you had Adolf Hitler and the Nazi controlled German army at the time, and then you had the Red Army, the Soviet Stalin controlled army. The Red Army was standing on the other side of the river, just waiting for, they would move in against the Nazis if they were basically invited, if we would have allowed them to do it. But of course, that is like signing a deal with the devil, is you'll just get invaded by them. And that's what would have happened, and that's what ended up happening anyway. Now, the way it happened is that, of course, we didn't take that. The Polish people did not take the lesser of two evils, and, they got the Gaza treatment, almost. Really, it's crazy to say, and unfortunately, but really, the Gaza treatment is a lot worse. What's happening to Palestine right now, Gaza Strip specifically, West Bank soon as well, but really what's been happening in Gaza, it's, to me, and I've said this, I haven't really said it before, but I said this first like a week or 2 weeks ago. Like, I'm putting it out there that it's worse than the Holocaust. Like, as far as what atrocities are happening, how systematic it is, how it's happening in front of the whole world, how everybody, is supporting the other side. I'd say it's objectively worse. Yeah, it's just worse. It's more despicable. It's more. It's been happening for a longer period of time. The Gaza Strip is even more destroyed than Warsaw after they leveled it and bombed the whole thing. It's even worse, and that's what's crazy to me. Kind of got off on a tangent there, but no, but it applies here, because you don't take the lesser of two evils, and the Polish people at the time were correct not to go out like that. And not to basically bend the knee and allow this army to go deal with that issue for you. You never give up. You never give up your rights. Because history remembers that. So, lesser of two evils is one of them. Another one that really the presidency of Donald Trump in its first month has brought to the forefront is this idea of message versus the messenger. And specifically, I'm talking about the executive orders. They made me think of that. Executive orders are just poison to freedom, no matter what they're about. They just kill freedom. They always have. And it's not just Trump, because then you had the executive orders before him with Joe Biden, and then Barack Obama, and this whole idea of, you know, emergency executive power. It's always been destructive uh, to freedom of all kinds. And I'm not a constitution guy either, but it's this idea of legislative versus executive. The legislative branch should be the backbone of the government. And remember, I'm not a constitution guy. I don't believe in representative government. Like, I am a beyond libertarian anarchist, but I also wouldn't run from the term libertarian. I actually like how that sounds. Um, right now, of course, we have the anti-libertarians, like, right, like Javier Milei is going to. It seems like he's going to be used. It actually seems like he's another person bringing a lot of this executive power ideas to the forefront. Because so what if he says the right things? You're gonna strong arm them with executive orders, and the people are going to support that. It's never going to work, because you're not letting the ideas speak for themselves. And this is why this whole legislative idea, equality under the law, the Declaration of Independence, even the Constitution. This is why this actually it yielded great fruit for a long time, because that actually made sense. I don't support the Constitution. Why? Because Constitution means body, and I'm not a fan of taking a living law, a living dynamic law, and making it into a dead book, which is a similar reason to why you're not going to see me at church too often, because it's just like Supreme Court justices. I don't believe in, I don't trust anybody to interpret the law for me. I don't put too much faith in people to do that. No, thank you. I can read. I'm going to interpret the law for myself. And again, that's common sense, right? That's the spirit, but that's the spirit behind the Declaration of Independence, which is awesome. And these rights are self-evident. Like it doesn't grant any rights. It's just making the statement that this is a living, dynamic thing, and it cannot be taken away, or else you're gonna get some self-defense in high doses, which is awesome, right? But the Constitution, it's not awesome, but it's good enough. But the reason I'm talking about it and supporting it right now is because this should be our backbone. This should be our reference point if we're actually trying to change things step by step to make it a better world. Once you get these executive orders, kick out this agency of government. Like, everybody's happy that we pulled out of the WHO. Or I don't even know if everybody's happy about that, but I know a lot of people support that, and it's just not good enough, because you don't know where the money's going to instead, and there still hasn't been a coherent statement made on what this means as far as direction, as far as ideological direction. What kind of a policy move is this? Because if you take us out of the World Health Organizations, and then you're giving it to another vaccine initiative where Bill Gates is the main funder, then have you really changed direction? You haven't. That's why I don't buy a lot of this executive action, because it's temporary. It's temporary, and it doesn't allow for the ideas to stand on themselves as for their objective merit and value. And this is why laws matter. Like, the law matter, the idea matters. Okay? But a constitution anyway is not good enough. It's like a temporary wall. Like, it'll do for a while. For the meantime, we should be using something like that in the meantime, while we're rebuilding, like, the pillar that is supposed to be the actual structural member of the house. So you put up the temporary walls, right? You fucking hit some 2x4s together, and then you leave them for a while as you work on the actual pillar. That is what we need. And then you're going to take the temporary walls down later. That was kind of the idea of libertarian government. Of course, it didn't work, because well, again, this is the lesser of two evils thing, right? Lesser of two evils doesn't work. You better deal with the problem. But the Constitution is good enough. It should have gotten taken down, but the pillar was never rebuilt. Okay, the pillar would be natural law or common sense. So I got my problems with the legislative branch of government, but it's the best of the three. The judicial is bad too. The executive one is worse. The legislative branch, not that I actually believe in it, I don't. But the best thing about it's the best part of representative government because it involves actually letting the objective merit of the idea be discussed and evaluated. So you're going to get a free and open debate. You're going to allow dialogue, and then later on, like over time, for years, there's a record of things. You have a reference point for the decisions that you make. Okay, not a Supreme Court ruling, but like the branches of an idea, you can always refer back to its like main trunk, to its stem, and say, okay, where does this come from? Okay, we're talking about individual rights, so free speech. It's like, okay, so and then everybody knows what we're talking about. Not just amendments to the Constitution, adding a new amendment. Based on what? It should be, the integrity of these things should be questioned, and like there should be like a genealogy tree, like an ancestry tree of ideas. Where do they come from? This is the principle of ownership, right? Talking about ownership, talking about rights, the right to self-defense. So, a legislative branch heavy government has more of that. And we had more of that. And you go back to, the Congress is supposed to approve any war that the United States is in, and it hasn't happened since World War II. So actually, like all these, Vietnam, Korea, all this stuff, it's like these were never actually approved. It's just executive actions. And that's what executive orders are. They're just military moves. So it's always like, we're going to do this because we have to. And everybody just buys that. And it's always extenuating circumstances, right? The government never seems to just do something because they believe it's the right thing to do. It's always like, we have to, and it's temporary, like very special circumstances make us do this. That's what the masks were, right? 2 weeks to stop the spread, temporary. You get guidelines, not actual laws, right? It's just sneaky behavior, and that's what you get with executive orders. That's what you get with city ordinances. And now it seems like you don't have to actually make something a law. You could just do it, and the people go for it. And it's messenger versus the message. So executive powers, it's always linked to the person that is in charge of the executive branch. So it's always about the people involved and the characters, instead of, is it actually right to do? And that's a big problem, because if somebody likes that guy that's in charge, you can always bend and twist an idea to support something you like. And there's no place for that when it comes to sovereignty. When it comes to decision making on the world scale, you have to stick to the message and not the messenger. But people, of course, fall for all these executive orders, and it's just the degradation of principles. But that goes back to no excuses again. It's like when you go on a diet, like you go on your workout plan or something, and then you break it, right? People adjust their reasoning. It's like, I'm going to do this because it's the weekend, or it's my birthday this week, and some excuse for why it makes sense to break their word of what they were saying at first. We all know that kind of reasoning is not solid, but we just kind of roll our eyes and accept that when people do that. But they broke their word, and that's it. And that's fine. Move on. If people break their word, they break their word. But people like we need to move on and recognize that no leader or administrator deserves any respect or trust for this reason, because they violate what they say again and again and again. And they say it's emergency circumstances. It's not emergency circumstances. They're just making excuses, and really it's worse than that, because they create the emergency circumstances so that they can bring the laws in. That's what the terrorist attacks are. That's what the school shootings are. That's what all of it is. I mean, Israel created Hamas for this reason, so they could go and take over Gaza and the West Bank. This is the history of terrorism and mass shootings. That's why they're a recent phenomenon. So, no respect, no trust for anybody in politics. The respect and trust belongs in the objective application of sovereign law. Sovereign law meaning above human law. Okay? Not like the 18th Amendment, not the 13th Amendment. No, like above that. The objective application of principles. That's what should get you respect and trust from people. The extent to which you stand for that is the extent to which I respect you when it comes to like political leaders and decision makers. So, to put a name out there, so like Ron Paul deserves respect. Ron Paul deserves respect for that reason. Literally everyone else, trash. To me is trash. And I don't like to do that. That's like if I have to stick my neck out and put support behind a person in politics. I really hate to throw a messenger out there because, again, I believe in the message, not the messenger. But you got to admit, Ron Paul, I don't like to do that, but I'm not scared to either. So that is somebody who objectively applies principles throughout his life in politics. But it's really a good transition into the next principle, 3 out of 4 that we're going to talk about. And it's about integrity and dependability, like consistency. And if you look at Ron Paul's career, he's got a body of work where he doesn't go back on what he says. He stands on the right side of these issues. But, our world today is the exact opposite of that. There's no integrity with people. They don't care about what they say. They will change their mind week to week and act like it never happened. I don't even know if they remember if it ever happened. It's like easy come, easy go. That's the sentiment, And there's such a short memory. People got such a short memory of what they say. Israel's been, killing their own citizens, killing children for so long, and then they still will go and have like official groups put up pictures of children and saying that Hamas is holding them hostage, like trying to get public support, as they get like number one top-notch military aid from the United States to go bomb civilians in the Gaza Strip, of course, and Hamas. But they'll put up pictures of Israeli children and say that Hamas is holding them hostage, like, like poor babies, like, really, really rough stuff, really emotional stuff. When it's already come out and been confirmed that Israel's own military killed that family, killed that man's children. He actually came out. It was an Israeli man that came out and said that, no, his children were actually already killed by Israeli bombs. Because it is known policy of the IDF, of the Israeli military, that, when they have their own people captured somewhere, they bomb them. They kill them too. They don't let hostages go, which is like, if there's some gangster ass motherfuckers, okay, like if you're cold blooded like that, okay, that's how you are. But that is not how they market themselves to the rest of the world. So that is why they're weasels to me, and they're cowards, and they're trash. It's not just their Wild West type behavior in the world. Because look, if you're a killing machine, if you're a Wild West, if you're a big bad motherfucker out there, okay, then we can at least view you for who you are. But instead, you got people hitting you with copyright strikes, and you got people hitting you with deplatforming, and you're getting shadow banned on Twitter, and you're getting lectured by everybody back here in the United States for being anti-Semitic, when you've got the government of this fucked up country literally funding a genocide right now. And it's like, you're going to lose a whole lot of people talking about that, that's kind of the thing. It is there's a sentiment that people have gone with, and the sentiment for a long time has been that Israel is the victim in this scenario, and it's so far progressed. It's like a stage 4 metastatic cancer. It's like, how are you gonna even wrap your how are you even gonna get your hands on somebody to be able to shake them and say like, you've been played. You have no idea what is happening over there. But that is an example of short memory and just not having integrity, not actually investigating what's going on, not looking at all the information, okay, not being objective. That's what people got, Like Tulsi Gabbard, a lot of people like Tulsi Gabbard. Of course, she was so anti-war. That's kind of the thing that made her popular. Now, of course, she switches on that. This is just one of these examples that I heard this week. It's another shout out to Ryan Christian, because that's I've been tuning into more of his work lately, and this is this who's been kind of my secondary source of information this week, and that's why I figured I might as well talk about the principles behind these things, because I have integrity as well. So I'm not gonna slide you a story when I haven't done the research, and I just wish people did more of that. Just be real, But you got people that they're so popular, they're up there in front of the cameras, but they have no integrity, so they should not be in front of the camera. You should be ashamed to show your face because you switched up on what you said. You got the president willing to put up NFTs like these Trump coins and shit coins and promote them. I wouldn't be surprised if he rug pulled the shit, like Logan Paul and all these influencers that pull like a crypto scheme, and everybody buys in like, oh, we're going to make a bunch of money, we're going to create a big project. So then you've got basically everybody pulling this money in, right? Like they're funding it, and then the fucking influencer who's scamming his fans pulls the money and rug pulls the shit for himself. That's called a rug pull. And then all of that money that they put in basically gets extracted because that stock went up or that crypto coin went up. And then the crypto loses value. It goes to zero, right? Because everything got pulled out of it. And then these people continue to have these followings and fans, and they don't get called out for it. This is the lack of integrity on all these levels in society. And now you've got literally like the heads of government promoting these things, and it's just like shameless promotion. Like old school like Polish actors, they were known that they would never do a commercial. They wouldn't do a commercial. And I'm not saying you can't take money or take advertisements, but like there are levels to that too. Like people just shamelessly take gambling money, but like there's like 17 and 13-year-olds who are gambling right now, who are clicking on what you're promoting, and it's like you're literally promoting crack. Like, look, I used to be a drug dealer, so I did this. I promoted things to people that were poisoning them. I know, but I'm not pretending like that's okay. I'm not pretending like, standing there with a big smile like I'm running for treasure. No, I knew who I was. So, in fact, government's always been a rug pull. Like, that's what it's been. It's been literally a scam. That's what my presentation, Babyface Criminality, is about. My last presentation. It's like, this is just a scam. It's always been a scam. And they get you to, like, crowdfund your masters, your enslavers. You're, like, sitting there on the plantation playing dominoes and rolling dice with the guy who's beating you with a whip, and then giving him all your money, giving him your wife, too. And then, when he takes everything you have and you're still working on this land, you're surprised that you got rug pulled, but you don't even see that he did it. Like, it's the level to which society is right now. It's crazy. It's crazy because there's too much information to justify how stupid people are. Like, if there was no information, then it would at least make sense, because, okay, how can you know? But the information is out there. And you got people that are doing great work, but people are still have that kind of same inaction that you would expect from somebody who's like in prison and solitary confinement, who has no access to anything. That's what people act like. And there just is no respect for a long-term body of work, long-term integrity, okay? That's that's a principle that is really important to me. Now, the last principle I want to talk about is individuality, kind of the key, which all of them revolve around. And the sentiment that's on the other hand of that, the sentiment that we have, people believe in this illusion of strength in numbers. That's the sentiment I see. Instead of individuality, which is the principle that value itself, all of the important things that you find valuable in your life, anybody, even though you and me could be complete polar opposites, the value of anything valuable, it comes from a unique human being and his or her unique gifts, qualities, and decisions. It all comes from an individual. Yes, there is value in a family, of course, and a group of people doing things. You are going to do more, much more than a single person can ever do. But still, it comes from and cannot exist without a unique individual doing what they alone want to do. Okay? It's individuality as opposed to collectivism. And creativity and innovation, it almost never comes from groups. Almost exclusively, they come from persons, a single person. But what I saw that ticked me off, and I thought about the sentiment of strength in numbers, is just Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, x.com. On Twitter, you've got these community notes. You've basically got right-wing fact-checking after we just spent like years talking about the left-wing fact-checking and how it was bullshit and it was just government propaganda. But you literally have that on X now. It's called Community Notes. And it used to be called Birdwatch. You know, the Twitter is supposed to be the bird, the blue bird, which is ridiculous because the blue bird was always a symbol of mind control, right? You know, people have pointed that out. But I hated that term Birdwatch. When I read that, I was like, ooh. Because that's what the bird thing has always been. It's a bird in a cage. It's not a free bird. It's like a house bird. It's like a parrot. It's a bird in a cage. So it's been mockery from the start what X is. And I love Twitter. Like, there are some things that it's great for. Like, something will happen, or I'll be watching, you know, you could be watching the Super Bowl and you'll be watching a game and there's something that happened and you want to see if that thing you saw that was important to you, if other people were talking about it. And you wouldn't have found out about it if it wasn't for that, right? Because probably the rest of the people you were with wouldn't have noticed it. So there are things about that are great. And I remember like around 2011, 10, 15 years ago, when I was, I think this is before like what I was like a young teenager. And I was listening to a lot of grime. I was listening to basically UK-based rap music with this real kind of Jamaican electronic music bend. It was a really unique form of music that had a kind of a revival around those years. So there are all these people that are making this music, and I'm listening to them make it. It's completely genuine. It's very grassroots. A lot of intelligent, skilled people there. But because they're not popular, you could talk to them on Twitter. And I remember back in the early days of Twitter, it was great to connect, and there was even a feeling of like a speakeasy type of a thing, like one of these, I don't know, bars or locales where you can actually talk about something that it felt like you could take action. You were together with a group of people that actually believed in something. So there are these great things about groups, you know, and mixing ideas and connecting with individuals. But it's become so big. There's now more than ever, we got so many voices online, such amplified communication, that there's this thing that I'm going to call like a monolith phenomenon. It's the monolith phenomenon, where the only kind of viewpoints and ideas that get any sorts of traction, the most loud and impactful ones, they're the ones that are the lowest common denominator. Like the real low-hanging fruit. Like real real surface level opinions. Like the most simplistic and dumbed down ideas are the ones that are the most popular. And isn't that our modern day left and right wing? Like, the core ideas have regressed to being such simplistic and one dimensional characteristics. Like what? Like my race, my nationality, my language. That is who you're with, right? Like that is like not even how you feel about something. It's as simple as, oh my god, the same color, the same country. We talk, oh my god, yeah, it's all those immigrants out there that are destroying the country, right? So that's them. Or the other half of the people, just what unites them? My social class. Oh, you're poor like me? Oh yeah, it's the fucking rich. They're taking all of our money. My gender idea, my abortion stance. We're talking about like 50-50 divides with zero nuance. And like those are the ideas that are amplified, and those are really the only ideas that you can get behind, because no other ideas are really loud enough to be in the conversation. It's just like the two political candidates. What is the argument? Nobody really, very few people try to argue, no, this is a really great candidate, he's a good guy. They say that about Trump, but usually what you'll get from people who are even a quarter of the way enlightened is that they'll say, yeah, I know, but it's the best option I have. That's usually what they say. And that's the problem. That's the way that system works. It's because you've got two dumbass ideas, but none of the real valuable, enlightened ideas can even break through. So these aren't real debates. It's just like fans of two teams who are playing each other. And it's only right that I bring that up on Super Bowl Sunday, because what enlightened opinion does someone have when they're in a stadium cheering for their team? It's never going to be something enlightened. Like, what can they really say other than bad play call, the ref sucks, oh, he should have made that play? People are incapable of any nuance in an environment where they've got the jersey of a team and they're seeing their team play. Like it's the most simple and degraded that a human being can be. It's just like a mass, black and white. Who's the enemy? Them. Bomb them. Like, it's that stupid. They just put the jersey on, and the only opinion that gets traction is the one that no one can disagree with. Like literally the only. It has to be so stupid that it's down to, oh, that's our team. I support that. Whatever is our team, not any nuance, not any details, and any actual argumentation for why that's the best team. It's just like, that's my team. That was my daddy's team, and I've been a fan ever since then, and that's my team. That's it. And those kinds of opinions are just as useless as those hot takes that are contrarian and they exist only to grab attention, and then they're going to get forgotten tomorrow. It's just useless. So that's where I'm at with that. And I'm not bitter right now, but I am getting that 2020 feeling where I just sense, my sentiment and feeling is that most people are just garbage and trash. So that is where I'm at with that. Unfortunately, numbers do matter though. But that's another principle of nature. If you're 6 inches taller than somebody and 100 pounds heavier, you're gonna beat them in a fight, no matter how tough he is. No matter how tough you are, you're not going to beat nature, and numbers matter. Unless he makes a mistake and defeats himself, you're not going to beat an opponent that has totally outmatched you. So numbers matter. And that means if 3 guys run up in your house, you better have a gun. So I guess we're making that point. And people are so anti-violence. And understandably so. We don't want violence. But I really see things differently. Like, there are several extermination campaigns going on right now. Like, we got the Israel genocide. We've got all sorts of programs back at home here that are claimed to be medical, but they're leading to children developing lifelong illnesses, disabilities. They're killing children. I'm not going to really speak about those in detail. We've got fluoride in the water. Look, then the pesticides that are getting sprayed. A lot of this stuff, it's just straight up extermination. Those are real genocides that are going on right now. So all those are going on in the world. And it's a world where if you die, we already know that our spirit is and essence is going to continue to exist. Like, you guys know that, right? Like, that's kind of a common thing, right? But yeah, so life is a priceless, valuable gem, and it should be protected. It shouldn't just be thrown around, and shouldn't play cards with our life. But life is nothing to hold on to if it's going to be a life of turning the other cheek while there's a literal genocide going on. And people say, like, killing isn't going to solve anything. Like, what are you going to do? Like, violence is not the answer. Every life lost is a tragedy. Yeah, I agree with all that. I understand. But unfortunately, physical harm seems to be just about the only deterrent that our enslavers understand. Our enemies, they really understand that. They're very Darwinian. They're very materialistic. Unfortunately, loss of actual life is like one of the only things that they actually know to speak. So I say, why not speak their language? I can speak multiple languages. I could speak, if I'm trying to communicate with somebody and get in touch with them, I'm going to get in touch with their language if they don't speak mine, right? And I don't know how else to say it. Like, organized revolution now, armed rebellion now. Like, I'm advocating for it now. And not an attack, because not because I wouldn't want to do it, but because it wouldn't work in our current condition. Like, by the time we march where we need to march, we're already going to be like in disagreement who we're fighting with and who we're fighting against. That's the problem. In our current condition, we would lose because of that. So we got to be in guerrilla warfare, which is what? Live your life as usual, prepare, get better, work on mastering your body, emotions, your thoughts. Do that, live your life as usual until someone violates your rights. When they do, then it's your judgment call. It's a judgment call whether that is the time to activate or not. Okay? Now, I know some people listening to this, and that I listen to, they already practice this essentially. Okay? I'm not the biggest, baddest motherfucker out there. I didn't just come up with this. There are people who live life this way. There are other people who I'd say are practicing this, what I'm calling for, which is, non-compliance, non-recognition of any government. And that's all I'm saying. I'm saying you guys keep doing what you're doing. I'm trying to do what you're doing, and I think other people should try to do what we're doing. But my call is just doing that, plus just flexing a little bit more. I just want to tell people more openly that that's how we live. I want to be upfront about that. And I think the point should be made that we're not afraid of the consequences, and we're not afraid of death at all. That is not only a principle. That is not only my principle that I stand for, but it's also my sentiment. And we talked about sentiments a bit, and it's funny, the word sentiment is from the Latin sentire, it means to feel. Okay? Sense, sentiment, it's to feel. And it's a feeling that is building of this futuristic tyranny, this technocracy, this technocratic indoor plantation. It's a feeling that is building it, which sucks, because it's not even like an enemy that you could drop the gloves with. It's just a feeling. And usually it's a feeling of fear that builds tyranny. Like hoax terrorist attack, give up, then you gotta give up resources and cultural customs. You gotta give up a way of life. But now, 2025, it's like the feeling is more so like this pitiful mix of spite and nostalgia. It's like you kind of want to go back people kind of want to go back to how things used to be, or how they imagined the world was back in the day. But it's also very spiteful. It's like, we just want to shove it in those guys' faces. Our enemies, those fucking liberals. Like, we got to get back at them. Everybody who's speaking a different language, all the brown people, get rid of them. Like, and not just the right wing, but that's my little example there. And isn't just that what the world feels like now? It's what it felt like when the snowflakes were in charge in the government. It's amazing how different it seemed, but we're still living in like the same world. But that's what it felt like now. It's like they didn't even care about what was right. They were happy to put a mask on everybody because they knew that it hurt them. It hurt it hurt people like me to put a mask on. It hurt people that like loved old school America to put a mask on. It didn't hurt them. And that's why they wanted to make them do it. It's all a sentiment. It's a spiteful thing. And I think that's what it is now. It's just a world full of people who are unfulfilled. And it's so hard not to point the finger at who is to blame. Like, people want to point the finger at that group over there. But feelings, they're crucial. Feelings are important, and they're actually part of the solution. And in fact, they are the solution. You don't have to have your life in order yet to start being part of the solution and then to start freeing the world. Because the way I see it, nature has only like 2 requirements that you need to meet, and then in return, you get beautiful things in return. Number 1 is you have to give and receive, which just means you have to participate. Like, you can't be a non-participant in life. We sometimes like to say work hard, play hard, fortune favors the brave, no guts, no glory. It's that kind of a thing. You got to put yourself out there. But not like a servant, not like a slave, not like Jesus Christ to be crucified in front of the whole world to watch. That already happened. We don't need another Jesus Christ. We need like regular common people to come out of the woodwork everywhere saying the truth and also saying, hey, I want to indulge. Like, we need to indulge. We need to enjoy the good things in life, to demand satisfaction and actually derive pleasure from this world. But at the same time, while we're enjoying ourselves, never compromise. Never compromise your principles. Never dilute your principles in exchange for comfort. And always be ready to lose it all at the drop of a hat. Okay, when it comes to defending that. So in short, we need to feel more, not less. We need to feel more strongly. I know the Trump-tards, they love Trump, and the libtards, they love whatever they love. I actually wish they would feel more. People need to feel more. It would benefit them to be an action taker and not a shit talker. And it would benefit us too. Like, more action, less talk. And I ain't talking like a sit-in or petitions or like volunteering at the soup kitchen. Like, I'm talking give the 100% real you. Show the world something it's never seen before. And you can. Like, you just really have to be brave and be yourself and not give a fuck what anybody thinks. Like, 100% unabashed, unapologetic you. Put yourself next to your heroes and become one of them. You gotta act like you belong there, because you do. That's number 1. The second requirement for success is take responsibility for 100% of what happens in your life. Do things if and only if you want to do them. Like, no excuses. And it's not me trying to get in the mind of God or anything like that. It's just so obvious to me that with us being given the gift of life, if you don't take responsibility for what happens, if you refuse to be in the driver's seat, it's exceedingly offensive to God. It's exceedingly offensive to the universe. And you get your ass kicked for that. Okay? If you try to pass the buck to someone else and blame other people on your life, you're going to be sad and unsatisfied all your life. It's like when you look in the mirror and say, well, I don't like this, and this about myself, but fuck it. That's who I am. And I'm not crying or blaming anybody for the way I am. That is when you start to live, actually. So to just do what other people say, to live thinking about what they're thinking, to do what makes them happy, it's actually a great offense. It's offensive to live for their approval. And look, if other people approve of what you do, that's good. It's great if other people approve, and if they're happy, yeah, great. But you better be the engine. Without you, it doesn't run. So you got to be the engine. The world, it's a absolute requirement that your irreplaceable, unique, free will decision making is the engine for the world. That's when it functions correctly. And that's when you get rewarded. Because it's like a feedback loop. It's like a battery thing, okay? Like you charge, the universe charges you, you charge the universe, you give, you receive, and you don't give credit or blame to anything outside of yourself. Those are the principles that I live by, that I support, and yeah, you should get this by the time the Super Bowl's over, you know. So a little bit of a later show. In 2 weeks is the funnel conference. I hope you join me there. Yeah, please reach out, have fun, enjoy, and don't take no shit. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week on This Week in Tyranny.